is 7 o'clock and tonight is our Friday night live Q&A. So I'm excited you're here. You do not have to do this alone, and that's what we're here to do tonight, is to offer support and encouragement and to help you feel a little bit more connected because, you know, we have been separated for a while. So my goal tonight is to give you some encouragement, give you some support, help you through this hard situation, and hopefully inspire you and bring a little joy as well. So thanks for being here. I am Coach MARISA Reyes at The Power Within, and we believe if we work together that we can empower healthy and fulfilling lives for everyone by transforming our relationships, ourselves, and our work. So we can give the world an opportunity to experience what it's like to foster connection, lift each other up, and oh no, I just got an error message. Nope, we're good. We're good. It's all good. And share power. That was the third thing. There we go. Okay, so let's get started. I've got my handy dandy notes here ready for you. So if you are here, welcome. You can ask your questions in the chat section. So if you're using your mobile phone, it will be at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a little text message blurb. Just touch on that and you can enter in your questions and I will do my best to answer them. And if you're watching on your computer, there should be a chat box on the right hand side. And again, you can type your question in there, and I've got AJ here. He's gonna read them for me and I'll do my best to answer them. So until the questions start flooding in, I'll just start talking with you about the fact that you do not have to do this alone. So this is the trap that we find ourselves in. So especially because we're so isolated right now. So yes, the people that we live under the same roof with, but there's this belief that we don't need help, or it's a bad thing to ask for help. And so then we go through these really, really hard things all by ourselves. And that's the shame gremlins. That's a big fat lie. They tell us like, no. If you need help, you're weak. You're supposed to be able to do this all by yourself. And so that freezes us up and prevents us from actually reaching out when we're having a hard time or asking for help. And that is dangerous, because if you are just stuck in your own head trying to solve your own problems, you start to believe that you're the only one who has this. No one else has ever gone through this. It's just you. There's something horribly wrong with you. And if you were just better, you could figure this all out. And those are just straight up lies. That is not the truth. In fact, we were not meant to do this alone. Human beings, we are social creatures, and for the majority, like vast majority, hundreds of thousands of years, the only way we could survive is to have a support group. That means like be in community with others, because if we had been on our own, we never would have made it. So this is like a new sort of like American belief, like, I can do this all by myself. Like, no, it's totally okay to ask for help. And so what gets in the way for us is these societal pressures, these shame lies. And so if you're male, the shame gremlins are saying, do not be weak. No matter what, do not be weak. And so if that is the standard that you are trying to meet, which by the way is impossible, then you would not ask for help, because that would be a sign of weakness. And if you're female, the shame trap is, I can do everything all by myself and never break a sweat. And so then as women, we take on all this stuff and feel like, well, if I can't do this all, then there's something terribly wrong with me, which of course is just a lie. And so that prevents women from reaching out for help too. So either way, you're stuck. And so I want you to know what you're up against. And so if you're having a hard time reaching out or asking for help or accepting help from others, that is the driving force behind all of that. So once you are aware of it, Now you get to have control in your own life instead of letting those shame gremlins or those lies drive you and make you really miserable and unhappy, because it's an impossible standard that none of us can meet. So it's okay to ask for help, and that's what I'm here to do. So I had a bunch of questions come through this week on Facebook, and so that's where I'm going to start. So one of the challenges that folks are facing in quarantine is meals, right? So there's a lot of cooking that has to be done now at home. You can't run to the local fast food. You can't go have restaurants. You know, a lot of places aren't delivering anymore. And so if you've been an on-the-go eater for a long time, all of a sudden you're like, snap, I gotta do this at home. And you might not have some like built up the skill set to help you be successful with it. So my tips for you, if you're having a hard time with at-home cooking, there's a couple of tips I've got. My first tip is to sit down and plan your menu out for the week. So whether we're in quarantine or whether this is just a daily thing, you know, we're back to whatever considers normal, right? So this is what I do every week when it's a good week. If it's a bad week, I skip this and then things go horribly wrong. So what I do is I will sit down on my designated day of the week, and I'm gonna look at my calendar, and I'm also gonna look at the weather to see, okay, what's on my schedule, which days are crazy, which means I won't have time for any cooking. So I'm gonna have to have stuff prepared in advance so that day I can just like reheat it or have it be really easy. Maybe that's a crock pot day, and so I just take it out of the crock pot and eat it. And so it usually takes me like 20 minutes or 30 minutes every week to sit down and plan it all out. You know, what do I already have in the fridge, in the freezer, or in the cabinets, and go from there. So then a lot of folks said they had a hard time because they have decided what they're going to make, but they don't have all the ingredients that they need. They're short on something. So the first step is the meal planning. Okay. Then the grocery list goes right with it. So you've got, and I do it all on the same sheet of paper. In fact, let me grab mine for you. It's going to be hard to see because it's in pencil, but I don't know. Let's see. Can you see it? So I've got my menu across the top. It's usually like 6 or 7 days. And then, that's upside down. Then this way I've got the grocery list, okay? So then once I've got my menu, I'm gonna look through the house to see, hey, do I have everything I need? What ingredients am I going to need to make these things? And then I write them down. Now, my husband gave me this great plan. Like I used to just like write it out in order on a grocery list, and then when I'm in the store I'm like hopping all over, like, do I have everything from the produce section? Do I have all the meat? Like they were all mixed together. And so he gave me this great format where produce is first, and then underneath that we've got like the dry goods. If you're in grocery, that would be all the stuff that's in the actual aisles. So like, you know, that's where my like oils go and spices, and if anything's in a can, that's where that goes. Then over here on this side, I've got the meat and the eggs, and if you do dairy, that's where like your dairy products would go too. And so then it's easier when you're in the grocery store to know, hey, am I done in this area? Did I get everything? So then I'm gonna flip through also the recipes to see, hey, do I have all the ingredients I need? And if not, they go right here on the grocery list. So everything is all together. That way, you only have to make one trip and you're set for the week, or however often you go to the grocery store. And that way you don't miss anything. You haven't forgotten anything, because now, you know, a lot of people said they don't want to just do like the one-off run and get something, or, you know, I had these big plans to make this awesome thing and then I didn't have what I needed. So doing your planning in advance really helps take the stress off, because it's really, really hard to make good decisions when you're tired and hungry. And usually that's the point in which you're like, uh-oh, I'm tired and hungry. I need something to eat. And then you have to get creative and think about like, well, now what are we gonna eat for this meal? So it's way easier to just have your list ready, go look at it and be like, oh, there we go. And it takes the thinking out of it. So, hey guys, I see that Jade is here, and ooh, I don't know who Midnight Archer is, but that sounds like a pretty cool name. Get my bow. So welcome. So those are my tips to help make your meal planning easier. Now, a lot of the folks I've talked to say they're just cooking nonstop because it's 3 meals a day, especially if you've got kids at home who used to be at school. And so the tip that I use, because I don't really like to cook, but I really like to eat. And so we make big batches of food. Oh, hey Kayla! So I make a big batch of food so that it's gonna last me more than 1 meal. So that way I don't have to cook every single time I want to eat. So I spend the time cooking, and then my next meal is however long it takes me to dish it up and warm up that meal if it needs to be heated. And so now some people don't like leftovers, and that's totally okay. Then you just have to own the fact that you're gonna cook every single time that you need to eat. So if you can embrace leftovers, you're gonna free up a whole bunch of other time. So, yeah, those are my tips for meal preparation and meal, like cooking and getting everything set. The third thing, you don't have to do this all alone. That goes for cooking too. Everybody's at home. This is a perfect time to, take on help in the kitchen and use it as a learning experience. So, oftentimes whoever is the cook gets a little bit, territorial about the kitchen, and we're like, no, this is my thing. It takes too long to teach other people, and it's gonna be a mess, and I'm just gonna do it myself. But understand, if you do that and you don't empower the people that you live with to assist you in the kitchen, you're always going to have to do it by yourself then. And so that creates this vicious circle where I'm so tired of cooking and nobody helps. Yeah, but you didn't allow them to help. See, we're going back to that help thing. So yes, it will take longer on the front end, but the beauty of it is you have now given all these other folks, whether it's your kids or your spouse or your roommates, you have empowered them. You've given them a skill that they are going to need for the rest of their lives, because, who knows? Like you might not always have the ability to get food on the go or have someone else cook for you. It's really important that you know how to cook for yourself. So those are my tips about cooking and meal preparation. So if you've got questions, welcome Jade and Kayla. Type them in and I will answer your question. So if I don't have questions, I'll just go on to the next topic, which is at-home schooling. So if you're in Minnesota, you probably just finished your first week of at-home schooling online. And from the reports I'm hearing, that's incredibly stressful. And so I just want you to know, parents, if you're in this situation, when I was teaching, it took 6 weeks of setting expectations to make the whole thing flow smoothly. So a lot of the greatest myth in teaching is that you can spend 1 day setting expectations and that's all you need to do. Because if we all think back to the first day of school, it's pretty boring because everybody's like, here's how it's going to work in this class and this is what we're going to do. And then they never went back to it. And so the rule of thumb, the greatest lesson I learned from a fellow teacher was you can spend 1 day setting expectations and have 36 weeks of hell, or you can spend 6 weeks setting expectations and have 30 weeks of heaven. So Jade and Kayla, when we all worked together, that was the hardest group I've ever had. It took 10 weeks of setting expectations to get us all on board, but then it was like magic after that and like the most incredible experience. So if you are trying to guide your children through at-home schooling, please give yourself some grace and know that it's not going to be smooth just after the first week. This is new for everybody. So for the kids, it's new. For the parents, it's new. And for the teachers, because they've never had to do this before. They are face-to-face teachers, not this online thing. And so everybody's in uncharted waters when it comes to this. So just understand it's going to be messy. it's going to be uncomfortable. And the more openly that you can communicate with one another, the smoother it's going to go, because everybody's trying to figure this out. And they're doing the best they can with the tools that they have. But the most important thing for parents is you do not have to become the teacher. That is not your job. So make sure that you stay in that parent role. And if you're not getting enough support or information from the teachers, you need to let them know that, because again, they're just making a best guess and they're trying to come up with things, and they're not sure how it's going. And you're, as a parent, not a licensed teacher. That's not your responsibility. You don't have to do those things. So please take the pressure off. And if things get too stressful and too crazy, just go outside and play for 10 minutes, or if you have to be inside, just take a break. It's all going to be okay. We're all going to get through this. So, AJ, do we have any questions? I see lots of chatting going on, but I haven't caught.
Everybody's complaining that it didn't show up in their subscription feed.
What? Oh, okay. Well, probably because I came up with a live event instead. So, luckily,
the stream wasn't in my subscription box. I had to go to your Facebook for the link.
Interesting. See, uncharted territory. We're trying to figure this all out together. So this time I had a pre-made link for the show so that it would be live when we started, but I guess that didn't show necessarily. That's kind of weird. Well, we're figuring it out, right? So I'm glad you got here. That's the important thing. Okay, the third thing I want to share with you, my third tip is when we are experiencing emotions, our feelings are the most real thing that we have. And it's so important to honor whatever that feeling is and acknowledge it. So I was listening to an interview with Chris Voss, who is a former FBI hostage negotiator, and he was sharing some of the tactics that they use to effectively do the hostage negotiations. And one thing that he referenced was a study. It was in a book. I don't pay attention to those kind of things. But what he said is they did a study and they would show people pictures to elicit a specific type of emotion. So yes, this picture made me sad. This picture made me happy. This one made me scared. And so they were monitoring the brain activity of the folks when they saw the picture. And so when they would see the picture, certain part of their brain would light up. And then they would ask them, what emotion are you feeling when you see this? And as soon as the person identified the feeling, that part of the brain stopped lighting up, which is amazing. He said it worked 100% of the time. So what that means is that if we can acknowledge the feeling that we're feeling, so whether it's I'm really scared, I'm frustrated, I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm super excited, those, as soon as you say that, it leaves that part of the brain, and now you have the ability to think clearly about it, and that emotion is not controlling you. So we get into trouble when we deny how we're feeling and we don't think about it, or we try to push it down, right? Because we don't want to be weak, and feelings are uncomfortable for a lot of people, and so we just don't want to deal with it. But when we do that, those feelings actually control us. So the example that he gave was, it sounds like you're mad. And then the person would be like, yeah. And instantly the conversation changed now, because that person's not letting their anger drive them. They are now in a different part of their brain that allows them to work collaboratively to come up with a solution. So then the guy's like, hey, well, what if it's a positive emotion? If you acknowledge the positive emotion, does that make it go away? No, actually, when you acknowledge the positive emotion, it actually made it even more positive of an experience. So no matter what you're feeling, if you can acknowledge it, then good things will happen for you. So what I've noticed in my conversations with a lot of folks over these past few weeks is that they're skimming over the top of it. No, things are going okay. It is a little difficult to have this, but they never would name the feeling. They wouldn't own it. I'm scared, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed. And if you don't do that, then you can't get the relief. either. So I strongly encourage you to, think about how you're feeling and just own it, because then you can take control over the situation that's going on. So, the feeling wall. Oh, yeah. And we had so what we did, I remember in 6th grade, I think were we writing? We might have been doing some writing. And so we made the feeling wall. And so everybody drew faces and put like what the emotion was. So I think that was so that we could have more descriptive writing or identify what it is. I think, or maybe it was for a different reason. But yeah, we had all those faces up to be able to like, yes, it's that one. No, it's that one. Ooh, that one, because yeah, our facial expressions really display what the feeling is. It's actually really fun when you're working with like itty bitties, like toddlers or what's before a toddler? Are they still considered a baby then? Anyway, and some of the first books they have are pictures of other babies' faces, and then they tie the emotion together. Like there'll be a crying baby, and then, the emotion on the page is sad. There'll be one where they're like laughing, and they'll say happy, and one that's scared. And like, it's so crazy how really, really young kids can look at the facial expressions on other people and like pinpoint, yep, that's what you're feeling. So that's actually mirror neurons. Everybody has them, I guess, unless you're a sociopath. But so your mirror neurons help you interpret the emotions and the facial expressions of the people that you are around. And so this is a survival strategy, right? We're a social culture. And so being able to read the people that we are around to see, hey, is mom angry right now? Is this person upset? Are they happy? So that they can gauge their own behavior based on the responses that they're getting, or know like, hey, is now a good time for me to ask for this thing or to make demands? Is this the proper situation for me to get what I want? So something fun fact about me is if I'm watching other people make facial expressions, my face will copy them. So thankfully I can't see any of your faces right now, because if I could, I would probably start to mirror them. So Jim Carrey movies were terribly painful for me, because he would like screw his face up all crazy like, and the whole movie I was copying him, and I didn't know it. But if people were around me like, dude, you're making the faces, and I'm like, I know that I do that. Is that why my face hurts right now? It's like the muscles were exhausted. So, okay. So what I want to do right now is open it up to the audience. If there is a question that you have for me right now, based on just what your current situation is, or something that is a challenge that you're facing, and you want to throw that out there, I will do my best to answer it. So I'll give you a second if you want to type those in, and I'll grab some water while we do that. Feel free to sing the Jeopardy song while this is going on. That's what you call teacher wait time. Giving people time to process so that they can actually answer the question. AJ, are there any questions that I haven't answered that we talked about? Okay, awesome. Well, so before we wrap up, I want to give you some resources that you can use. So the first one is, if you are not already receiving my Powerhouse newsletter, make sure you go over to coachmarisa.com, MARISA, and as soon as you land there, within like 2 seconds, it'll come up and say, hey, do you want to join the Powerhouse newsletter? Do that, because every week, hopefully, I am sending out empowerment tips. So I've got videos, I've got recipes, I've got my own personal journey, and everything that you need to stay inspired to be healthy and live a fulfilling life. So that's a great way to equip yourself and strengthen your personal power. I've also got all kinds of videos on YouTube. So I've got a creating health videos. I've got Resilience 101. So for those of you who are going through hard times, there's a lot of great resources there that can help you to overcome negativity and be more positive and more resilient. I also have workout videos now. So this week I just released a Tai Chi tutorial. So if you are, we can't go any place to work out now, you got to do it from home. And so I walk you through that so that we can do Tai Chi together, and a couple of other workouts, plus dance breaks, of course. I did that at the beginning while we were waiting for 7 o'clock to get here. And then every Friday night, I am doing a YouTube Live. So that's another free way that you can get some great resources and support and encouragement. And then lastly, if you're looking to work directly with me, you can head on over to coachmarisa.com, and all the information is there for you to look through. So
Cannot wait for the next food cooking video.
nice. Yeah, that might be what I do next, like a live one. I'm not sure. So okay, being stuck with my family in tight spaces and no one can leave. Yes, this is difficult.
Choose which one's gonna live.
So no, AJ, that's a bad answer. So yes, that is super challenging. So I think number one, acknowledging that this is hard, and just like being open with everybody to be like, this is hard. Especially like if you're in a small space, that would be super duper difficult. Like I at least have the luxury to be in a different room from the people I live with if I need a break. But if you're in a small apartment, that would be very difficult. So you can go outside, depending on where you live. Like you can go outside and take a breather. You can go for a walk. Creating separation from the people that you're with is really, really important for your own mental health. I know for me, when I vacation with my entire family and we're all staying in the same place, that it's very easy to get on one another's nerves. And so I had to learn a long time ago that I just needed to go outside of the room to somewhere else. So whether that was going for a walk or hanging out at the pool or, just giving myself my own space, that was one thing. Or if you can't get out, just like closing the door. And so, whether that's the bathroom, that might be the only place that you can close yourself in there and just do your thing in there. So read a book, or if you want to play a video game on your phone, or just to create that space for yourself. It makes sense now, all those jokes that they had about dads, being in the bathroom reading the paper back before cell phones were out. That was the only place that they could get away from the family and have some peace and quiet. So I totally get that now. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I think
do a combined dance/cooking video.
Oh.
It's hard for my mom, and right now her mom and grandma just passed away, so a lot of strong emotions. The worst part is not knowing how to help cheer someone up.
Okay. Great question, Kayla. So something that, and this is one of my survival tips that I didn't mention, so I'm really glad that you brought this up. This has totally changed my life when my friend shared this advice with me. And the advice is, I give others permission to have a bad day all on their own. So often, especially for females, we feel like it's our responsibility to cheer everyone up and make sure that we have a cohesive unit. I think it's probably just built into us. But it's not our responsibility to cheer someone else up. If we're having a bad day, sometimes we just need to have a bad day. Or, we don't have to drag somebody out of there. It's okay for us to experience whatever the feeling is. As the therapist Marisa Peer says, great name, she even spells it the same. She says, it's important to feel our feelings until they no longer need to be felt, because they're the most real thing that we have. And so going through hard times is part of being a human being. So grieving and loss and all of that kind of stuff, just to honor it, that this person is going through there. And you could even say, boy, it's, I can see you're having a really hard time, what can I do or how can I help you? And a lot of times there isn't anything you can do other than just like sit with them in their pain or give them the space that they need. So we don't have to cheer people up all the time. And so if somebody's having a rough time and grumpy and crabby and irritable, just like let them go have their time and work through whatever that is. And I promise you they will come back after they've had their space and be able to interact with you in a much more positive way. So I have been using that for like the last 5 or 6 months. And boy, it's hard. It's really, really hard because my first instinct is to be like, I need to go cheer this person up. What's wrong? How can I help? What can I do? And like when you're in a bad place, like you just want everybody to leave you alone. You just need to go figure it out or just be in it for a while and experience that pain. So you can say, hey, I'm here for you, or you can, check in every once in a while and then read the situation. And if they're still like, okay, they still need their space, I'll go do my own thing. So let them know that you care about them, and then also show them that you care about them enough to give them their own space. And then hopefully you can come back together and, when they're in a better place, because it'll even ebb and flow throughout the day when you're grieving. So I hope that that's helpful. Yeah. And, that's the thing is like, hey, this is the number one source of conflict that I have seen that builds resentment is when we offer advice to people when they don't want it. Because we want to help, but they don't want it. And so then we give them this amazing information, right? And they just blow it off. And we're like, oh, so now you're ticked. And they're ticked because you gave them advice that they didn't want. And so then it just creates a lot of conflict. And so if you can say, hey, would you like some suggestions or would you like some advice on this? Or would you like my ideas about what you could do? And asking that question and allowing them to say yes or no. Now, I've never been told no, just as an FYI. Usually what the person will do is be like, I think I got this right now. I'm busy doing X, Y, and Z. And so that was your cue to be like, nope, I don't want your help. I'm doing these things. And so then you just keep it to yourself because they're not going to receive it anyway. So there was a great analogy in a book that I read that talked about the teddy bear. And I bet both of you, maybe you remember this. I'm sure I talked about it back when we were in school together. Is that so we have this teddy bear and we love this teddy bear and it's our favorite, and then we try to share it with other people, and if they're not in a good place, they're just going to take it and throw it on the ground, and they're like, oh, you're ruining my favorite teddy bear, like how dare you, right? And so we have to be able to read the situation. There are going to be times when it's okay to share that thing that's so important to you with other people. And there's going to be times when you just need to keep it to yourself because it's not safe or it's not a good time for you to be putting those things out there. So hopefully that helps. So I'm reading the comments here. Give me a second.
I already gave her advice on what to do.
Yes, I think that's perfect, Kayla, what you're doing. So I think one of the hardest things that I've been working on is to be able to sit with someone in their pain. Because I'm a fixer and I just want to fix it. And that's not, there's some things in life we can't fix. When someone dies, there is no fixing that. It's just a really sucky thing. It's hard and it's not, we never sign up for that. Boy, I sure wish I could go through some grief. And so learning to just be with someone in their pain and not even try to fix it, but maybe just to sit in the same room with them so that they know that they're not alone. So that's a skill that you can build, and it takes a lot of courage to do that. And like I said, I've been working on it for a while, and it's still hard for me to turn off the fix it mode and just go into, I'm just going to be here with you. It's really uncomfortable
Marissa,
for me.
they think I'm promoting them to try to drink alcohol.
Oh, why would you do that? You don't even drink.
I know, right?
Oh, you're just trying to be funny. He was just trying to be funny.
No, I wasn't. I was like, you you should try drinking or
No, alcohol is never the answer.
I didn't say alcohol. They had
I saw it come across the screen in capital letters. Don't lie to me.
I said I did. I
No. That's what's really hard is like to not like numb the pain, to just like be in it, because if you can feel the feelings until they no longer need to be felt, then it's all done. But most of us run from those feelings, and so we never deal with them, and so then it just stays there forever.
Not me.
So, okay, I think we answered all the questions. So, folks, I'm so glad that you are here with me tonight. I hope that this helps you have some new tools, and also helps you feel like you're not alone, that like, hey, we're all going through something really tough right now, and we can come together and work together to figure it out. So, I'll do this again next Friday night at 7 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you there. I will have the links out, because now I know how to pre-make the link, so it's not hard to find the show.
Pre-make the link.
And I continue to figure this all out. So I love you guys. I believe in you. You can do this. I'm Coach Marisa Reyes at The Power Within.
It was an emoji of a wine glass, but that's all I could find. It was supposed to be orange juice in that wine glass.
Oh, Adam. This is my daily experience. I'm Coach Marisa Reyes at The Power Within, empowering you body, mind, and soul. I make it stop.